Hi guys, welcome back to the Commonwealth. So continuing on the series where we are looking into Vault-Tec and all of Vault-Tec's multitude of shenanigans and all their questionable experiments and various things. So I thought we could pay a visit to some more of the vaults that are in the Commonwealth. There's a few of interest. So we've got Vault 75 up in the Malden area. This is Malden Middle School, or what's left of it. You can see that the main part of the building, the school building, didn't really fare too well in the Great War. Oh, there's Wonder Glue though, I'll take that. A lot of it you can't really get into. But a lot of it's kind of collapsed and things. And this was a location where they built a vault. So when you come to this place in Fallout 4, it is full of gunners. And there is a kind of fan theory that this vault is the source of the gunners, which we don't really know for sure, but it would kind of make sense in some ways, and that you'll see what I mean when we get there. But yeah, so we come down into the basement of Malden Middle School, and again most of this is boarded up. There's skeleton makeshift ramp for this wheelchair, so yeah. Now we've got some Vault-Tec crates. And some vehicles as well. So presumably this was at one point, like, I guess an underground parking garage or something, or maybe this is just what they built to get construction vehicles and stuff in here. But yeah, so this is Vault 75. Welcome home. So excuse all the gunner bodies. Well, that's an impressive trick though. Levitating hand, well done. Okay, so clearly that guy had some magic powers. But yeah, so the vault doors open when you come down. Vault 75. And I say when you first get here, the place is being taken over by gunners, which I was more than willing to get rid of because we don't like them. But to start us off, let's have a look at this. So this is the security office. Normal. Stay fit, stay focused. So this is the admissions terminal. So just everything about the vault admission. So press release. For immediate release, Vault-Tec to subsidise enrolment for Malden families, Washington DC. In response to growing national concern for the safety of our children in the event of a nuclear attack, Vault-Tec officials have cooperated with local government in Malden, Massachusetts to provide subsidised enrolment fees for any families wishing to sign up for residency in Vault 75. The newly opened vault is attached directly to Malden's elementary school, ensuring a swift evacuation should an attack come during class time. Safeguarding the future has always been our priority, says a Vault-Tec spokesperson. The opening of Vault 75 gives us all extra peace of mind knowing that the children of Malden will be safe even if the worst comes to pass. So yeah, that sounds great. So potentially, if this Malden maybe not particularly affluent area, or there potentially a lot of kind of households not so well off, so we're going to subsidise enrolment for families, for children, and they built it right underneath the school so that if anything happens while the school is in session, they can get straight in. So enrolment policy, enrolment guidelines. So Vault-Tec has authorised special discounts and subsidies for qualifying families. This special offer can only be extended to families meeting the following requirements. One or more enrolled family members are children under the age of 15, so there have to be children. 2. Enrolled children attend public school within the township of Malden, Massachusetts. And 3. The enrolled group includes no more than 2 adults per qualifying child. Please note that Vault 75 also permits the individual enrolment of children for families which cannot afford to also enrol a parent or guardian. So they were allowing children to be enrolled even if their parents couldn't afford a place at all. So a bit of an interesting one. And special admission protocols. Upon activation of Vault 75, all residents must be subjected to standard admission protocols, details of which can be found in the Vault-Tec Personnel Handbook. Once residents have been verified and sanitised, children under the age of 17 are to be taken to the atrium area. There they will meet with the overseer, who will provide orientation information specific to the children. All other residents are to be taken to the holding area to await their briefing from the head of security. So keep that in mind, that once everybody was inside the vault, they separated the children and the adults and took the children to the overseer, and the adults went to the head of security. Admission records. And worth noting that everything that's listed here, there's no actual records of the adults, so yeah. So we've got a bunch of kids, they must be siblings, and more siblings, but yeah. So admission records, so that's the kind of unique selling point of this vault. Safety first, sure. And then they separated the kids and the adults. So that's pretty much all we can really learn from the entrance to the vault. So now we need to go down in this elevator. Now when you come through this place, if I remember rightly, you had to get special keys to get through certain areas, which I already have, given that I've been through. So yeah, here's just a little aside that the vault reactors are here, and they have built a play park, so baseball base, there's some swings and seesaw, one of those weird climbing frames that, yeah. So, you know, right next to the reactors, because that's obviously a nice and healthy, safe place for children to play. Right next to some nuclear reactors, well done. Yeah, you can see that there's toys everywhere, kickballs, baseball bats, and then some living quarters, bunk beds, comfy pillows at least. So, got a classroom here. There's not really a lot to glean from here, but yeah, so they'd have to, you know, if they're going to be prioritising having kids in the vault, then classroom's important, so is lessons. So K8, I'm guessing that's like kindergarten to 8th grade. No file. T12. Yeah, I'm not going to pretend to understand American school system. I don't barely understand the Scottish school system anymore. But this is the important thing here, is Up Top Land Heroes. So this is a story for the children of Vault 75. There was once a little girl named Sue and a little boy named Roy. Sue and Roy grew up in a very special place called Vault 75. They learned and trained and played there. How they trained: Sue and Roy were both growing up big and strong when one day Sue and Roy were asked to visit the overseer. "What's wrong, overseer?" asked Sue. "Why are you crying, overseer?" said Roy. "It's just awful," cried the overseer, wiping a tear from her eye. "Have you children ever heard of Up Top Land?" Sue and Roy blinked and shook their heads. "What's that, overseer?" they asked. "Oh, it's a terrible place," began the overseer, and she told the children about Up Top Land. She told them about the people living there and how they weren't safe or strong like the children of Vault 75. Monsters attacked them, and evil bandits stole their food, and it was no place for little children to grow up. No, not at all. "Those poor people," exclaimed Sue. "Why does nobody help them?" wondered Roy. This formatting is actually making me so annoyed. But anyway, that's just it, children, the overseer told them. They need somebody big and strong to protect them. "Who will help them?" Sue and Roy asked. "One day, children, you will," said the overseer. "That's why you must do your best at classes and training every day, so you can grow up big and strong and make Up Top Land a happy and safe place for the poor people who live there." Sue and Ross smiled at that and ran off to their lessons, eager to help. So there you go. So yeah, it's extremely cheesy kind of children's story, but it does kind of give you a bit of a picture of what was going on here. So these children were studying and training, and they had to do a lot of training because they were going to go up to the surface and help all those poor people that lived on the surface. So you can definitely kind of read that for what it is, as a clear propaganda, which is something that Vault-Tec were especially good at, let's face it. So yeah, if you look out there, you can kind of see there's a little kind of street diorama set up, so we'll get to that. Yeah, so there's basically a whole other section where unfortunately the people did not fare too well. That's a better look at the sort of street that's set up there, but you can see some of the skeletons around here are wearing lab coats. America lives on in you. Right, where are we? That's researcher's terminal. Not quite ready for that yet. But again, there's more just like kind of dormitory setups down here. Oh, Jangles the Moon Monkey in his pillow fort. Yep, Chief Scientist Terminal. Okay. So, very confidential. Chief Scientist eyes only. So this is going to tell us the experiment that's happening. So, Prime Directive. Welcome to Vault 75. As outlined in your confidential briefing packet, Vault 75 is part of a top-secret military program. You have been selected for your professional credentials, experience and commitment to the improvement of the human genome. It is of the utmost importance that you follow the protocols herein. The mission of Vault 75, above all, is the refinement of human genetics. Your scientific staff will operate according to the research schedule set forth by Schlett, Braun and Lamb. Braun. That should be a name that's familiar if you know anything about Fallout. You'll be working with an overseer with a background as a military officer. Your overseer will be responsible for training and maintaining the subject population you'll be working with. It is important that you and your overseer maintain a healthy working relationship. So, experimental abstract. Vault 75 represents an unprecedented opportunity to test our hypothesis that the human genome can be improved at a rapid rate through the combination of selective breeding, hormonal treatments, genetic modification, and an accelerated generational cycle. The experimental objectives of Vault 75 are detailed in the handbooks which have been provided to you already. This experiment is intended to be carried out over multiple generations. As such, there may be unanticipated research opportunities that present themselves. Such diversions from provisional protocol are permitted at the discretion of the chief scientist. And then signed by all the people that were mentioned before, including S. Braun, as he was one of Vault-Tech's kind of biggest scientists. And then staff replenishment. So, because Vault 75 represents a long-term experiment in a closed environment, it will become important to replenish staff periodically. This should be done by selective recruitment of outgoing subjects. We anticipate a certain percentage of resident population to exhibit high intellect scores but insufficient physical capabilities to be qualified for genomic harvesting. These subjects may be at overseer and chief scientist discretion offered the opportunity to join staff. Those who refuse should be disposed of in the same manner as unqualified outgoing subjects. Please note that all internally recruited staff should be kept strictly separate from general population for at least 15 years to prevent members of the general population recognising former residents among the staff. Only the most trusted and capable staff members should be admitted to the genomics laboratory. It is the responsibility of the chief scientist to very carefully choose these staff members and ensure they are sufficiently trained for their roles. So they would recruit from the kids scientists, so kids that showed high intelligence but so-called inadequate physical abilities, but they had to be kept separate from the kids for at least 15 years so that they didn't recognise each other. So that's quite interesting. And then genetic harvesting protocol, here we go. So outgoing subjects aged 18 years with aggregate score of superior or excellent across key physical, mental, social traits must be escorted to the genomics laboratory. Processing should be done on an individual basis and with great care. Remember that successful subjects will likely be capable of overpowering staff. Reiterate to the subject that a brief round of vaccinations is necessary and avoid arousing any suspicions otherwise. Each subject should have a file for processing which indicates which specific organic material needs to be preserved for future testing. Be sure that these directions are strictly adhered to and that specimens are stored quickly. So basically these kids were trained until they're 18, and if they were good enough then they were taken to get what they were told was going to be a vaccination, and they would be harvested. Yeah, so genomics reports, most recent graduation. Yeah, I don't know how much of this. So genome donors, overall harvest was exceptional this year. Lots of superior ratings in the physical categories. Many of our vital organ initiatives are paying dividends. Pain thresholds have been a mostly solved problem for years now, and we're finally getting past issues like cardiac arrest under heavy duress. The genetic material we're gaining this year should help the next generation meet goals we thought were still a decade or more off. Some concerns about aggression levels. We've had a few cases of psychological breakdowns due to stress over the years, but incidence was much higher in this group. Going to recommend we synthesise some new tranquilizers just to stock up. Food supply remains best delivery method for general population, but should be concerned about future assigned staff too. Okay, recruitment. Only needed one recruit scientific staff this year, with Washington joining the genetics team to help me out up here. Subject's physical scores were very low. He is consistently showing good problem solving and critical thinking. Overseer has concerns about his attachment to some of the younger members of the population. I'm not too worried. His psychological profile, shows that he's very suggestible. We'll keep him on the observation deck long enough for those who he had personal relationship with to graduate out of the population. That gives us some time to acclimate him to the experimental protocols without conflict. We just need to keep him in the dark until then. Disposed. So very low disposal overhead thanks to the excellent harvest ratio this year. Just 74% of the overall graduating class. Incinerations will be done within the week. Good first task for Washington before we begin the real work. So just 74% were just disposed of, and that was okay. So yeah, the more you read on this, the worse it gets. But yeah, the archive of records is corrupt. So yeah, basically they were using a variety of things to breed super soldiers. That's the kind of gist of the whole thing that they're trying to. So they would harvest the genomes of the kids that showed the best promise, the most promise, and then just dispose of the rest. And just to be clear, when they were harvesting the genomes, the kids didn't survive that either. Overseer's terminal. So yeah, operations protocol manual, resident admittance, so it's slightly different from what was in the admittance terminal that we saw. Personnel officers are responsible for admitting residents and obeying standard protocol for sanitisation and scans. Research staff is to assist as needed, but otherwise to remain in their wing. Adults aged 17 and older will be isolated and disposed of by the head of security. Children under the age of 17 are to be taken directly to the atrium area. As overseer, you're responsible for introducing the children to the caretaker robots and their sleeping facilities. Research protocols will not begin until the second week of containment. It is recommended that you participate directly in routine story times each evening. So yeah, a bit different from what was said at the start. Family policy. Vault 75 has been built within the township of Malden, and all families with children aged 5 to 16 have been offered subsidised admittance to the Vault programme here. This should maximise the number of residents able to report for admittance in a crisis event. In the event it becomes necessary, it is preferable to allow potential subjects to remain with their families in the bulkhead area over allowing adults to accompany subjects to the atrium. These subjects will not be admitted to the general population. Some distress is expected in the early days of interment. Please refer to Vault Tech's childcare consolation protocols if guidance is needed. So yeah, if the parents refuse to let their children be separated, then the children would just be not admitted to the vault and handled the same way the adults were. So lovely. Staff duties. So personnel and security staff have been assigned to Vault 75 and provided with standard instructions as found in your operations manual. Research personnel are to remain in their designated wing and isolated from making physical contact with residents except under special circumstances. New research personnel may be selected annually from the vault population at overseer discretion. Residents are to be informed that these persons have vacated the vault, so they will be told that the people have just left the vault. Overseer directives. So residents aged 18 and older must be removed from the general population annually. Residents who have exhibited genetic promise are to be preserved for genome harvesting and reintegration. In other words, they harvest their genetic material and create new babies out of the material. Residents of average genetic promise but high intelligence and docility may be recruited to the research staff at overseer discretion. All other residents to be removed must be culled. Research staff is responsible for cultivating embryo replacements to maintain consistent, I think that's a typo, consistent resident population numbers. Vault 75 is to remain sealed until an all-clear order is issued by Vault Tech. So again, they were never told to open the vault unless Vault Tech tells them to do so. And they were using the genetic material they were harvesting to create embryos, and that the idea being that with each generation they create, and they can turn over a generation much quicker. Each new generation of kids they create, that things are going to keep improving and improving. Annual turnover protocol. So beginning 1 year after initial containment, children over the age of 18 must be removed from the general population. This will be done annually on a date specified by the overseer and chief scientist. It is recommended that this graduation be treated as an important tradition inside Vault 75. Appropriate ceremonies should be conceived of and performed by overseer staff, with outgoing subjects being removed one by one from the main living area. Once separated from the general population, the subjects with aggregate ratings of excellent and superior are to be escorted to the genomics laboratory for processing. Subjects with excellent and superior intellect ratings but not aggregate will be offered positions as overseer of research staff per discretion of the overseer and chief scientist. All other subjects should be disposed of as outlined. So yeah, and then we've got some stuff from the overseer. So, new researcher, worried about the new recruit in science. He's supposed to be on simple observation duties and closely monitored until subjects he knows in population have been processed. I know we've done this many times before, but something about this one feels wrong. Not sure I should have let myself be talked into it. So as somebody that's just newly joined the science team, and the overseer is a bit concerned that something might be different with this new one. Having a capacity problem in the nursery. We are as full as we can in IVFS, but introducing more residents to the population is going to be problematic. I prefer to wait until the next turnover. We'll have to discuss with the chief scientist. And fire in the archives. Damn it all, some kind of wiring issue caused a fire in the archive. We lost some hardware that I'm told will be difficult to repair, if not impossible. Science lost a lot of the historical research data, though I'm told we can get some junior staff started transcribing hard copies. Some of the locks failed once the fire got bad. Worrying, but turned out to be a blessing in disguise. Science staff nearby got in and stopped the blaze quickly. If the locks hadn't failed, then myself or one of the senior scientists would have had to manually open the doors. So yeah, there was a fire in the archive, and a lot of data got lost. But yeah. So yeah, we can kind of see the true horror of what was actually taking place here. That yeah, they were basically harvesting genetic material from these children when they turned 18, assuming that they were good enough, and then they were promoting the kids that were smart enough but not physically capable to be part of the research team. Researchers terminal. Here we go. Okay, so test protocol, aerobic aptitude. This station exists to measure and increase aerobic ability and cardiovascular health of test subjects. So, as the treadmill operator, adjust incline and speed to reach and sustain target rate in the subject. Once target rate has been sustained for more than 60 seconds, gradually increase duress until peak heart rate has been reached or exceeded. Heart rate guide, let's see that. So yeah, so based on age, so the minimum is 106, target of 170 and 212, because something that maybe some people might not know, that younger, and this is true in pretty much all mammals actually, that younger animals tend to have a sort of higher heart rate than older animals or people do, and that does apply certainly most mammals, but also in humans. So like babies and young children all have a faster heart rate, generally speaking, than older. But yeah, it's like, I mean, pushing them up to over 200 beats per minute is kind of insane. Like, I would freak out if a cat had a heart rate over 200 beats per minute, never mind a human. Side effect guidelines. So, unacceptable. So, if the risk of this happens, to stop the test. Cardiac arrest and death, which aren't actually the same thing. A lot of people think they are. Cardiac arrest is where the heart stops, but could be reversed with CPR potentially. It's also not the same as a heart attack, and death obviously is death. So that's unacceptable. So that's good, I guess. But things where it's acceptable to continue testing: muscle strain, nausea, vomiting, loss of consciousness. So, yeah. Researcher's notes. Nina won't believe it, I'm actually on the research team. We always thought some grown-ups must stay in the vault to help the overseer run things, even if we never saw them. I was right. Not everyone has to go to the outside world. They said I'd do more good here, and I couldn't be happier. I wish there was some way she could know I'm still here, still able to watch her. She'll graduate in 2 years. Maybe they'll put her on the research team too, if her scores are high enough. So this is, we can assume this new researcher that has been mentioned before. To be young. It's only been a few months since graduation, and already I feel so much more mature than the kids I'm monitoring every day. Rohit and James both still talk about taking over the vault, like they think nobody's listening. Robbie and Becca still sneak off to huff propellant. We see that too. They'll never make it onto the research team like I did. I'm just glad I can still keep an eye on Nina. She's not doing too great on her scores though. She was never much of an academic like me. Her physical scores are among the best in the group though. I'm sure she'll graduate to a good team up top. I just hope I can see her before she goes up top. So even at this point, this guy's still convinced that the kids that are physically capable and really good get sent up to the surface, because they'd intend to keep him away from that until all the kids that he would know are kind of have graduated out. Because this Nina, I don't know if he had a crush or what it was. There's obviously a couple of years between them, but yeah. And then he's just like, yeah, I'm a big grown up now. That's great. Passing notes. So Supervisor Bissell lost some papers from his clipboard this morning. He was pretty anxious about it. He spent most of the morning searching for them and then pulled me aside to get me looking for them while he went to meet with the overseer. He really doesn't want anyone to know that they went missing. Turns out they got sucked into a vent. I could hear the pages flapping in there. There's no way I can get them unless I were to go downstairs, but I saw Rohit fish them out of the vent down there first. I'm going to tell Bissell I couldn't find them. So his supervisor, so obviously one of the scientists, lost some papers that have kind of ended up in one of the air vents, and then he's witnessed one of the kids finding the papers and he's just going to say he couldn't find them. And then the shooting range, so he's saying, oh, the shooting range is really run down. I've asked the overseer if we can get some supplies brought in to help refurbish it, but was told we should work with what we've got. Then she reminded me it wasn't even my station. Didn't think it would be a big deal to have her ask some of the up top graduates to bring supplies, but I guess they're really busy and there's always some risk involved with her going outside. Maybe she'll ask at next year's graduation when she takes new graduates through the surface door. Yeah, so again, this guy still hasn't really quite cottoned on to what happens, that none of the kids who graduate actually go anywhere. It's not great. One thing that you might be wondering is if we can find the genome lab, but it's not there, presumably. I don't really know, it's just that I'm guessing there's a part of the vault that you actually can't get into. Oh, assistance terminal. Okay, so testing schedule. Yeah. So it's just a list of names. Closed for maintenance at 11, closed for lunch at 12, and then error after that. So somebody's been messing with that schedule. Testing guidelines. It's broken. If your name is not Rohit or James, then but out. Hi James. Is able to mess up the scheduling program. The system wouldn't expect us to test anyone after lunch for a few days. If you're right about the overseer having helpers, I don't think anyone's noticed. Anyway, this will give us some time to get things ready without prying eyes. You can leave a message on this terminal too if you need. Should be pretty secure now. We can start smuggling ammo in here. Nobody should find out if we're pinching a bullet or two at a time from the range. Still need to figure out a good fuse, but it'll take us a while to get enough gunpowder smuggled in from the range before that matters. Resistance. What do you think we're up against anyway? Worst case, all the superiors we've ever seen graduate. That's not comforting. I really doubt it though. I'm almost positive they've just got geeks up there, maybe even just robots. Depending on the robots, I might take the up top grads. Yeah, I'm not worried though. There can't be as many of them as there are of us, and they're basically training us to be able to overpower them. We won't know until we know, I guess, and I guess we're gonna know real soon. So these two are clearly planning something. James, have you thought about what we should do with the little kids? If we hit the door during nap, they should be safe. We should still make sure everyone pushes forward as much as possible. I hope that'll work. We should probably have a few stay behind just to keep an eye on them. Good idea. We can trust Alma, right? Why don't you talk to her during our testing appointment tomorrow? She's in. So, yeah. This is like a little secret exchange where they were planning to overthrow the overseer and the scientists of the vault, and they were stealing gunpowder from the shooting range, which we've still to get to. So basically that's the story, is that these papers got dropped and that was enough for some of the kids to figure out what was going on and decide enough's enough, we're gonna take matters into our own hands, and that's what they did. So I'm trying to figure out how on earth to get into the shooting range again. You can get into it because there's a you can actually like try and beat the high score on it. As well, but I cannot for the life of me remember how you get in there. must be through the atrium somehow. Somewhere. Ah, this might be it. You see, we've got chemistry stations. Not sure what that is supposed to be, some kind of microscope or something maybe, I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm guessing this is, oh, Radway, nice. Probably where they did some testing. Yeah, you've got treadmills. So that'll be from that protocol we were reading, where the only acceptable reason to stop is if there's a risk of cardiac arrest or death. Although at least they have fans, I guess, and oxygen tanks. That maybe makes it better. So yeah, this would be the sort of testing area that they had. And 10mm pistols. Combat simulation, so yeah, so you can run the course if you want to. It's quite fun. Quite interesting that they've set this up. So there's a diner. It's basically like there's a gunner commander. You know, like shooting ranges where there's like cardboard targets pop out and you have to shoot them, and kind of like that. And you can sort of run your way through it and get the high score. You don't really get anything other than bragging rights, but you know, it's a thing. Skeleton is just having a rare time splashing around there. Enjoy yourself. Just because you're dead doesn't mean that you can't have fun splashing in a puddle. There's a lot to create back here.
Yes.
With Radix and a subway token. Wow, so worth it. But yeah, I think that's pretty much everything that you can kind of learn from Vault 75. I say there is kind of a fan theory that the gunners may have originated from here, because they do seem to be quite a powerful group of like mercenaries and stuff. So it's not impossible, because you know, the fact that most of the skeletons that we see lying around here are wearing lab coats, so it's heavily implied that what happened was the kids basically overthrew the scientists and left once they kind of realised what was going on. And that's always going to be the problem when you create super strong, you know, super soldiers, that eventually they're going to overpower you if you're not careful. And that's kind of what happened. I'm just going to double check that I've not missed any important notes here. But yeah, you get access cards to get around from some of the gunners that are here. So Vault 75, not great, I'm going to be honest. We don't really know. I mean, there is definitely more to this vault than what we're seeing, that presumably has been sort of cut off somehow, you know, the genomics laboratory, because I mean, I know that we're kind of in the future, but from my experiences of being in a lab, you need quite a lot of equipment for the kind of genomic harvesting that we're talking about, and especially the fact that they were using this to create new embryos, so sort of in vitro fertilization, and presumably some kind of artificial wombs, or I don't know, surrogates. I mean, I guess because they wanted to, sort of accelerated generations, so they wanted the generations to keep, sort of that to be much quicker than what would happen naturally in a population, I guess, of adults, even adults that are encouraged to breed. It sounds so kind of brutal and clinical when you put it that way, but you know what I mean, like, that if they're doing it artificially, completely artificially, then they can get the generations to happen faster than if it was happening the old-fashioned way. But yeah, so there is parts of this vault that we don't really get to see, but yeah, it's quite unpleasant, kind of, the whole thing's quite unpleasant really, because it's not really that different from like eugenics, that kind of thing, and hopefully we can all collectively agree that that's a bad thing. But it's a risk that you take if you're going to do something that's going to create super soldiers, that it could backfire. They were basically trying to Captain America en masse, that's basically the same thing, and it's going to backfire. Well, that hand's still floating there. There's just always going to be a chance of something like that backfiring on you. And then if they catch wind of what actually is going to happen to them, they're not going to be too happy about it. And if they're, 100 times stronger than you are, and they outnumber you, it's kind of inevitable that this was something that was going to happen. I mean, they knew that because they talked about putting tranquilizers in the food and things to chill them out. I don't know, maybe if they were medically manipulating them as well with, I guess, buff out or something. And I mean, buff out certainly seems to be very similar to anabolic steroids, in which case, one of the common side effects of that is to do with mood regulation and sort of anger issues and things like that. So there's a lot of, yeah. I mean, it's not the worst out of the vault experiments, but certainly, quite brutal and quite clinical as well. Just the fact that, like, people, I mean, again, you've got to think and imagine, you've just seen on the news, it's a lovely Saturday morning in October, you've just seen on the news that nuclear bombs are coming, but thankfully you've been subsidised for entry into this vault because of your children. So you run to the vault and then they take the children away into a different room, and then you get briefed by head of security, meaning that you basically get taken out by security and they just take all the adults away and kill them all, dispose of them. So yeah, so that was Vault 75.